reminded to conduct themselves in a polite and professional manner, keep communication factual and use appropriate language and tone. Council meetings are live streamed and recorded via YouTube. Please therefore treat everyone with dignity and respect. Do not use any defamatory or derogatory remarks. Defamation laws do apply to addresses in a public forum. Councillors are reminded of their obligations to conduct themselves in a professional and respectful manner under the obligations of Council's Code of Meeting Practice in the interest of good governance and to adhere to meeting etiquette. All present are reminded that the YouTube video recording is an official record of Council and will be accessible via YouTube in accordance with the Code of Meeting Practice. No other recordings are permitted, and all present should ensure that there are no video recordings, audio recordings or photographs taken. In case of emergency, please follow the instructions of the Council staff, exit via the Town Hall foyer and proceed to the evacuation point. Thank you, councillors. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Bidjigal clan, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and work, and acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and just like to congratulate the local Indigenous community on the fantastic black markets held over the weekend at Kiama. I now invite Father Jakob Barkert from St Mary MacKillop's Catholic Church in Rockdale to open our meeting in prayer.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all. Let us pray. Almighty ever-living God, we thank and we praise you. All the gifts which you have given us in our life. This evening, we thank and we praise you for the gift of coming together, gift of each other, gift of our communities, and we ask you to bless us. Bless us with your knowledge. Bless us with your wisdom. Bless us with your understanding, so that with your wisdom, with your knowledge, with your understanding, we can contribute in the building up our community. This evening, we also pray for ourselves. We pray for our families as we are going through the time of Lent. Almighty ever-living God, bless us so that we can prepare ourselves well to participate in the Paschal mysteries and also enter into the resurrection of Jesus Christ. This evening, we also pray for all the departed souls, those who died in a tragedy in one of the Macedonian towns. Almighty ever-living God, grant them eternal rest, and to their families, to their community, comfort and strength. Once again, we ask you to bless us with your wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We ask this through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father. We now move to condolences. Firstly, for Enzo Santiago Alves. This is obviously a tragedy locally. Council acknowledges with sadness the tragic and unexpected passing of 14-year-old Enzo after the young athlete died suddenly during a football match on the 9th of March. Enzo was a much-loved local player for the Arncliffe Aurora Football Club, and he suffered a devastating health event during a recent match at Arncliffe Park. Council joins the local community in paying tribute to this talented young man who was described as a loyal friend and loving son by all who knew him. Council offer our condolences to Enzo's family, his friends, his club members, and everyone whose lives he touched during this sad time. Would any other councillor like to speak? No. Thank you, councillors. Note the condolences. Just moving to a short announcement. I'd like to congratulate Bayside Council for receiving the Risk Management Award for the Barton Park Recreational Precinct Upgrade Project from Civic Risk Mutual, our insurer. Civic Risk called for nominations for their annual Risk Awards in November of last year. Our risk management team prepared a submission, and Bayside Council was selected as one of the finalists for the exceptional work undertaken at the Barton Park Recreational Precinct Upgrade Project. The Civic Risk Mutual Forum was held last week, and Bayside Council was announced as the recipient of the Excellence in Risk Management Risk in Focus Award. We have the award here tonight, I think, the General Manager. Very nice little award. Thank you. And so we just wish congratulations to all of our excellent staff involved for the work they did on that project. Thank you. We have one presentation at tonight's meeting, and that is to somebody that I think most of us around here know, Lewis Mellum, who is now our former Management of Development Services, but was a very long-standing employee both of Rockdale and Bayside Council. He worked here for over 21 years, and that's in a local government career spanning 35. It doesn't look a day past 40, so I don't know how he managed that. Lewis has seen the transformation of Rockdale and Bayside over those 2 decades. Just about every building here that would be less than 20 years old has probably had Lewis's involvement with it in some way. After he arrived at the council in 2003. He's really been a guiding hand in the development of Bayside through, you know, who could count how many I mean, Lewis probably could, but how many development applications he's dealt with in that time. But, you know, fundamentally this is about people's homes, it's about the area they live in, and that certainly wouldn't be the same here without Lewis. Lewis has always been highly regarded by his team and across the organisation, by councillors, I think that's fair to say, and myself included, working with Lewis for many years on the Joint Regional Planning Panel. His work has always been excellent. He's always been a very fair and even-handed servant of the people, and that's really is what justifies his reputation. But sadly, after a dedicated and productive career in planning, Lewis has made the decision to embark on a new chapter in life and pursue his passions for ocean swimming and travel away from council. I can't imagine why he'd want to do that. So just on behalf of Bayside Council, we do want to congratulate you and thank you for your service to our community in Rockdale and Bayside, and wishing you happiness, health and fulfilment in the years ahead. I think we have a very small gift for you here to enjoy in your... Thank you, councillors. Any other speakers? Councillor Barlow.
I'll just congratulate and good luck in your semi-retirement, or whatever you want to call it, as I've known Lewis as long as, well, I've been here longer than Lewis. I remember when you arrived. So good, just to wish you well and to thank you for your service to former Rockdale and Bayside.
Yeah, I'll just add a few words. Look, I just want to thank you, Lewis, for all the help. I mean, Lewis has been very prompt when I've called him and asked him. He's helped me a lot since I've started in council. You've had a lot of knowledge. I've learned a lot from you. Thank you for all the help that you've given me through the years, 20 years, and wish you all the best for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wyder. Councillors, anything further? No, thank you, Lewis, for your service. We'll see you again when you come back as a consultant, I'm sure, at some point. But I'm just joking. But no, thank you so much. Councillors, we move on to apologies, leave of absences and attendance via audio-visual link. I believe we have one apology tonight from Councillor Bezic. Do I have a mover and a seconder? I move Councillor Wyder, seconded Councillor Boudelet. All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Disclosures of interest. Councillors, do we have any disclosures of interest? Around the room. Councillor Curry, Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Boudelet, Councillor Strong. No, I'm getting shaken heads. No. Good. Councillor Naji, Councillor Disco, Councillor Wyder, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Poulos, Councillor Douglas. Oh, Councillor Poulos.
So BTC 25.046 and BTC 25047, non-significant, non-pecuniary interests on the basis that I'm an adherent of the Greek Orthodox faith. However, I'm not a member of either parish, and I will intend to vote on these items.
Thank you. Councillor Douglas. Thank you, councillors. Minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Douglas. Seconded Councillor Awada. Councillor Douglas, I think you have some amendments.
I did have some amendments. Is that okay, Councillor Barr? Yep. So one of them was a notice of motion 13.14, truck traffic on Forest Road and Stony Creek Road. My understanding is that the amendment that was put to that was an addition to the first 5 points, and instead we just got the amendment. So the council staff were going to put that on the screen. And the second one was, there was a couple of questions on notice that were attributed to me that were from Councillor Barlow.
Right, got those. Councillors, anything further? All those in favour, all those against, declare it carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to items by exception. Oh, sorry, mayoral minutes. My apologies. All over the shop tonight. It's changing weather. Councillors, there's one mayoral minute tonight acknowledging the terrible tragedy in Kochani at the Pulse Club fire, which tragically took so many lives in a fairly small village in northern Macedonia. This is obviously something that affects many people within the Bayside community personally, who have relatives in that town in particular, and in that part of North Macedonia. So I think just on behalf of council, extending our thoughts, our prayers to that community. I think also recently there have been a number of events and outpourings of support from the community locally. I know there was a vigil just across the road on the other side of the train tracks, and the Rockdale Illingdon Football Club recently held a large fundraiser over the weekend to support the victims and their families, but obviously then things like this happen. It's just devastating, and for us, I believe it was in many ways this is a planning issue. So it goes to show how important and how lucky we are that we have dedicated professionals like Mr. Mellom who make sure these things don't happen here. Councillors, are there any other speakers? Councillor Sarabanovsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you for dedicating a mayoral minute. Today I rise with a heavy heart to acknowledge a tragedy that has deeply affected our Bayside community, particularly the Macedonian community who has been part of this region since the 1960s. 10 days ago, we've been struck by the terrible news of the blazing fire tearing apart the Pulse Club in Kochani, taking the lives of 59 dead and another 160 injured, with underlying concerns of smoke inhalation, damaged lungs, or even head injuries from being stepped on. Unfortunately, the most worrying is the youngest death was 16 years old. And many of them are in between the same age bracket as me, 16 to 24 years old. I'm not a parent, but I could only imagine the stress and the toll it would take on a mother, a father, a grandparent, or family involved losing someone they knew hours before the event, and after the fire, gone. Those lives will be forever changed. The victims are not just a number or a statistic. They are sons, daughters, friends and neighbours. It is important to take a moment to acknowledge the strength of the Macedonian community here in the Bayside. Since the 1960s, they have shown incredible resilience. They have built thriving businesses, raised families, and become pillars of this council and beyond with the other cultures that make up this council. The connection to the heritage runs deep and is a community that stands together in face of adversity. But today, that strength is being tested in ways we never imagined. For me personally, I feel the weight of this loss deeply, as this tragedy strikes even closer to home. Not because I'm the same age bracket, not because I'm of Macedonian heritage, not because Kochani is my mother's hometown, but in fact my cousin, a young, beautiful 17-year-old girl, was one of the victims in this tragedy. She's currently far from home, in a hospital battling for her life. She's fighting for survival after suffering severe damage to her lungs, sustained from smoke inhalation and being stepped on as she desperately tried to escape the fire, with 1,000+ people through one only exit in the venue. As the roof of the building collapsed, she was caught in that devastating moment, unable to escape the flames. With every breath she took was dark smoke. With every step she took closer to the door, desperately fleeing from the fire, the survival instinct kicks in. Do whatever it takes to live. And unfortunately, that was the mindset of the others, and it turned into a free-for-all. And every blink she took, she could just see the shoes of the others that stepped on her head, and each heartbeat she took may have been her last. We are all holding our breath and praying for her recovery and for those suffering who remain behind, grieving, waiting, and hoping for the recovery of their loved ones. We are here for you. This is why I couldn't be more proud of the local Macedonian community bonding together in the past 10 days. As the Mayor mentioned, a beautiful memorial service was held at St. Petka Church, honouring those who lost their lives and lit candles in hopes for the ones surviving and battling. On Saturday, I was proud to have attended Rockdale Inland Football Club that dedicated the game as a fundraiser, where 100% of all proceeds went to the Kochani Appeal. We had a full house, Macedonian and non-Macedonian community, in show of support from Sydney to Wollongong to Newcastle to Melbourne, all coming to come in support. What touched me the most was the beautiful minute of silence and the young kids that lined up before the game. There was 59 balloons, exactly, all black, and were all lit into the sky before the start of the game, in honour of those young, beautiful little angels we lost up high in the sky. I'm happy to hear through the efforts of the club and the community, we raised over $85,000 going directly to the Kochani Appeal and back home to the families of the deceased and to the ones struggling. Unfortunately, writing this speech I was made aware we lost another life in the wake of the tragedy, a 41-year-old healthcare worker travelling from hospital to hospital and from ambulance to ambulance in the efforts of saving as many as they could, putting other lives ahead of their very own. That is heartbreaking to hear, and I'm sure everyone gathered here in this very chamber and those watching live on YouTube are proud to call this beautiful country, Australia, our home. We should be blessed to be here in this very moment. The value of basic necessities slips our minds and goes under the radar. With the news that 160 injured had to be driven to another country through ambulance, helicopter, and those that are fortunate to fly by plane, just to get basic health care. In wake of this tragedy, I reflect on the fact that I'm proud to call Australia my home and the best country in the world. Thank you for your time, and a big thank you to the many state MPs across the country writing letters of condolence and support. Thank you, Melbourne, for Federation Square. Thank you, Canberra, Brisbane, Perth councils lighting up buildings and monuments in red and yellow. And a massive thank you to Canada, as we do have a large Macedonian community there that will be watching tonight on the live stream. Thank you, Canada, with the internationally recognised attraction Niagara Falls, which is lit up in red and yellow. But I must remind my fellow councillors and those watching on YouTube, this tragedy should not be politicised. As a council, we must stand with our Macedonian community in the time of their need. We must offer our condolences, our support and our assistance in any way we can. We must show them that we are not alone, that we together as one community, we will get through this tragedy. This is not just a Macedonian loss. This is a loss for all of us. I request the council to honour the dead and those still injured with a tree planted in Rockdale Park in honour of those that have lost their lives. I appreciate the council's town hall light-ups in red and yellow, and I hope we can push for more into King Street, which has always had a Macedonian culture, and to light up in the colours of red and yellow. I strongly believe our strong and vibrant Macedonian community would appreciate council's gesture of the Macedonian flag flown at half-mast for a 7-day mourning period, as done by the Macedonian government last week. I'd like to ask all of us to keep the victims of the Kochani fire in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stavanovsky. Councillor Disco.
That was very well said. Our thoughts and prayers are with those victims, and I'd also like to say that I'm extremely proud that Greece was one of the countries that assisted with this devastating situation, and I hope those that are in hospital recover very soon.
Councillors, further speakers? Councillor Barlow.
I'll just offer my condolences because I do know a lot of Macedonians in my area, my neighbours, half my street. So it's sad, and hopefully everyone can get through it, and hopefully council will do the flags and the colours so that they can be remembered.
Thank you, councillors. Further speakers? No. All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Sorry, councillors, there is a supplementary mayoral minute on the Resilient Sydney Strategy 2025 to 2030 mayoral statement, effectively just seeking support to support a short statement from all mayors to include in the final strategy, which I think has been circulated around. It just notes that local government plays a critical role in supporting place-based resilience. Councillors, any further speakers? No. All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Items by exception. Councillor Curry.
We just have to pull out 11.6.
Yeah. Do that. Councillor Morrissey.
No.
Councillor Boudeleau.
Yes, I'd like to pull out BTC 25.043 Middlemas Street, Rosebery, proposed no parking zone. Thank you.
Councillor Strong. Councillor Kassim. Councillor Brederhoft. Councillor Saravinovsky. Councillor Naji. Councillor Wada. Councillor Barlow. Councillor Poulos. Councillor Douglas.
11.2, 11.3 and 11.5, please.
We lost Councillor Discu. All right. Thank you. All those in favour, all those against of items by exception, declare that carried. I think we have no public forum tonight. We now move to reports from Council. Item 11.2, Bexley Heritage Survey results, additional information to item CPE 25.007. Mover and seconder. Move Councillor Douglas. Seconded Councillor Brederhoft. Councillor Douglas.
I was just hoping that we could make an addition, an amendment to that we bring that back to the subcommittee for further discussion.
Councillors, further discussion? I think it's that the report be brought back to the subcommittee. That's the City Planning and Environment Committee for further discussion. That would be an additional point 3. Visible up on the screen. Councillors, further discussion? No. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Item 11.3, Mascot Oval update, community engagement feedback. Do I move Councillor Douglas? Seconded Councillor Curry.
Again, I was just wondering if we should be moving that back to the subcommittee for further discussion, noticing to pay attention to the question on notice that was published in the business papers, 14.3 around netball at Mascot Oval. There was quite a long question on notice from Councillor Kassim that I felt could and should be addressed in that community engagement feedback.
Councillor Curry.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. This project is on a tight timeline, not negating the fact that other things can be looked at, but I don't want to delay this project. It's got a, it's because it's timed specifically around seasons, and we can't delay it any further. There's no reason why we can't explore the netball concept outside of this. So if you're comfortable that we just say that the section, we endorse the project, but number 3 can be changed to the concept of a netball court be brought back in a report at the committee. And there was work done on this last year, and I don't know if a question without notice was asked, but this has been, you know, it was discussed and it would be good. There was research done, I know that. So it'd be good to understand what council came up with. Also, there was some talk about the new potential amenity at Lestrange as well once the waste centre moves out of that. So what are these options in order for us to achieve that diversity? Thanks.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Douglas? Yeah. Councillors, further discussion? All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Item 11.5, progress report on councillor notice of motion. Moved Councillor Douglas. Seconded Councillor Morrissey.
Just noting another change to the amendment to the progress report for the minutes. I brought this up at the last council meeting. It wasn't actually fixed for this meeting, so I have flagged it with the staff that we will put those terms of references in 2.5 for the walking and cycling committee. So I just wanted to flag that with the council.
Thank you. Councillors, further discussion? All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Item 11.6, the Australian Local Government Women's Association Conference, call for nominations. Moved Councillor Curry, seconded Councillor Brederhoft. Do we have nominations from councillors to attend the conference? Councillor Curry, Councillor Brederhoft. Any further? How many delegates do we get? We can send as many as we want. All right, well, I think we've got Councillor Curry and Councillor Brederhoft going, and if other councillors are interested, I'm sure you can express interest after the meeting. But all those in favour, all those against, declare that carried.
Sorry, can I just add an item by exception with regards to one of the confidential items that we have? Sorry.
Sorry, I think we need to recommit. Sorry, what do you want to do,
So
Councillor Paulos?
CWA 25.007, can we add that to be pulled out to discuss?
The bus shelter tender.
Bus shelter, yeah.
Councillors, any objections to recommit the items by exemption to discuss the rescission of the award of bus shelter advertising contract and retender? Councillors, I have a procedural motion from Councillor Paulos and Councillor Nagy to reopen items by exception and to recommit the rescission of award of bus shelter advertising contract and re-tender, item CWA 25.007. All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Councillors, we move to item CPE 25.006, post-exhibition report, planning proposal for bus shelter advertising, which is being pulled out as a planning matter. Councillors, do we have a mover and a seconder?
It is a confidential item though.
No, not the planning decision. This is CPE 25.006 as opposed to the tender item.
Yep. So I actually pulled out 007.
Yeah, but we're doing 6 first.
Yeah, this is a different committee.
Sure, sorry.
Councillors, do I have a mover and a seconder? CPE 25. Moved Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Strong. Do we have any speakers? No. All those in favour, it's by way of division. Councillor Curry.
For.
Councillor Morrissey. For. Councillor Boudelet. For. Councillor Strong. Councillor Kassim. Councillor Brederhoft. Councillor Saravinovsky. Councillor Nagy. Councillor Awada. Councillor Barlow. Councillor Poulos. Councillor Douglas. And myself 4, carried unanimously. Councillors, we now move to item CW. Do you want to discuss the confidential matters, Councillor Poulos? Yes, we'll move it to the end. Item BTC 25.043, Middlemas Street, Rosebery, proposed no parking zone. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Curry, seconded Councillor Awada. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, Mayor. So traffic matter, Middlemas Street, 10 to 12 Middlemas Street. I've sent you all a photo of the current issue that a lot of the residents are experiencing. For those that are from and have been to Mascot, Middlemas Street is a very narrow part of the ward. It's a housing kind of estate, townhouse, about 20 or so houses there. They've got 2 driveways which they use, drive in and out. People park all the way up to the driveway on either side. There's usually 3-ton trucks on each side. So I was approached in kind of late last year by one resident where basically they've said there's been a lot of near misses, there's been at least 1 accident there. This went out for consultation through the council. Unfortunately, only 5 people responded. I know I personally received a petition of at least 23 from that particular area, and I think it was decided that there would be no change. I just can't sit here with a good conscience and not move this, because what we're trying to do here is have a no parking zone on either side. Basically, when people are turning right or left here, they're saying a prayer every time that there isn't a car coming either way and they'll have an accident. And I know council have responded based on the feedback they've received. There were 5 responses. There must be some kind of breakdown in communication there, because there's at least 25 houses there that want this change. So have a look at the photo. What they're asking for is no parking on either side. And I know this has been ongoing. It's now gone to the local member, Ron Honig. It's gone to Matt Thistlethwaite as well. And as I say, I can't sit here and not put this forward, because if there is an accident, that's on us. So please have a look at the photo. The amendment is up. I do support the one-way consultation. I was driving down that street today and I was like Muhammad Ali, bobbing and weaving through cars. It's pretty bad. It's a bad situation. So I know this area needs a bit more attention, but if you'd consider the no parking zone, I know Councillor Kasim has been involved in this as well and has been out to see the resident. And I think before the meeting we spoke about the safety issues, which I think a lot of people weren't aware of. So I'd put that to the council and hopefully get the support of my fellow councillors. Thank you.
Councillor Birdley, Councillor Clary.
Can I just get some clarification, please, Councillor Boudeleau? So you're suggesting a no parking zone. So is that, and how many spaces is that? Just not clear on what it...
Yeah, of course. So it would be losing 3 parking spots on either side. I know some people would say that there's limited parking in the area, but I think we should really put the safety of residents, especially people living there, above that. There's a couple of big trucks that park there every single day. So really it's an opportunity to have a gap so people can see what's coming towards them when they're turning. Because at the moment, I'm surprised there haven't been more accidents, to be honest. So, you know, it's a bit of a give and take, obviously, but, you know, for me, I think this is something we've had at least 20 households say this needs to happen. Unfortunately, that hasn't come through the consultation, but, you know, I can provide the petitions. There's a lot of support for this. So I know that decision not to do this was based on that response. So hopefully that answers the question.
Councillors, further discussion?
Just a
Well, we
comment
had a
that
mover and a seconder. It's
I
with the
feel that-
consent of the mover and seconder. Are we,
it
sorry,
should
is
be-
this an amendment or were you,
Yeah, I'm
do you want
sure.
to incorporate
Hang on.
it or?
No, I'm just trying to work out which one's been moved first. That was a council one.
Councillors Curry and Awada have moved the officer's
Yeah,
recommendation.
and there's an amendment. I think that really the basic, we should refer it back to the traffic committee with all the details. Or you know, you as a councillor, you have the right to put in a CRM so that this traffic committee and the engineers understand. You can ask for a site meeting. How about we move this as referred back to the traffic committee after you have an on-site meeting. That way you're speaking to everyone.
Look, I think having an on-site meeting is often a useful way of dealing with these,
Yeah, very
Councillor
much.
Boudeleau. It's often, but maybe if it just after an on-site meeting, it comes back to council rather than circling back through the traffic committee. I'm sure interested councillors can.
It referred back, after an on-site meeting, refer it back to the traffic committee because we can't make the decision. It is the traffic engineers have to at least look at it. And you
No, we can make the decision, Councillor
You can make the
Barlow.
decision, but we're not traffic engineers. So I think, first of all, have your on-site meeting and then discuss it from there. Because I feel that it's going to be, it's an issue and you need to get it right. You don't need to just say, oh, we'll do this and then, oh, that's not going to work. So it really needs further consultation, but on site.
All right, so the new motion is that this item be referred back to the Bayside Traffic Committee after an on-site meeting is held. Councillor Curry and Councillor White are happy to do that.
Yeah, I might just suggest that an on-site meeting is held next week so that, you know, so we can move on this quickly and then try to get it to the next traffic committee. And I think, you know, regardless, it's always good to get there, meet with the residents and then open it up to, you know, other councillors might like to go as well, and that way we get a really good understanding and with the right staff member there who can explain any complexities. Thanks.
I guess
Councillor
if it's
White.
going to be next week, you'd have to give council enough time to send letters and to the residents of that street. So
Are we able to get some letters out this Friday to the street?
Councillor Bootleg can letterbox.
I don't think middle miss. All right. Councillors, all those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Councillors, we're on to notice of motion. Item 13.1, energy from waste options paper. Moved Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Curry. Councillors, do we have any speakers? She didn't. Yeah, she didn't say she was leaving. So. You weren't absenting yourself for the Greek church ones, no. Yeah.
So, yeah, I raised this notice of motion as there's a consultation open at the moment on an energy from waste paper, which basically from waste, not only paper. But how that impacts us was in 2021, there was a proposal for an incinerator at Matraville, which borders Botany, right on the boundary of our Ward 1 with the South Ward of Randwick Council. That was actually, People Power was successful in overturning that proposal. There's now an options paper, and I'm asking that council review the submission. That was a really good submission made in 2021, and make a submission to the current paper outlining our concerns with that.
Thank you, Councillor Morrissey. Further speakers, Councillor Douglas.
I really appreciate you bringing this motion forward. I just wondered if we could potentially add an amendment which was to provide, not to halt this process, but to provide an opportunity for the councillors who weren't in the council at that stage to be given a briefing session or a report at the relevant committee. As I wasn't on council when this issue arose last time, I feel a little bit ill-equipped to deal with it longer term. So it'd be great to get information from staff.
Maybe if I can suggest just that information be made available to all councillors on the portal. There was a really good submission made, a lot of references within that. And then if there's any further questions that come from that, then we can certainly address that as a council. But just in the interest of time and the fact that there's everything out there, that I think council officers would only present what is already available to us anyway. So how about we can get, if that's okay, Jim, just put that on the portal for all interested councillors? Yeah, thank you.
Happy with that, and then maybe we can, if there are further questions, we can raise something afterwards. Does that work? Yeah. All right, councillors, further speakers? All right, thank you. All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Item 13.2, ICI Management of Legacy Contamination. Moved Councillor Curry, seconded Councillor Morrissey. Do you have any speakers? Councillor Curry.
So just briefly, formerly there's a major site in Botany which was formerly ICI, and in recent times Orica, Qenos have been there. Now that industry, very gladly for our local residents, is moving itself out. But what that has left is significant contamination, and noting that there is a groundwater treatment plant which by 2036, but we think it's a concern for residents. So all we're asking for here is the requirement to provide a 6-monthly update to council, which can be shared with councillors and residents in order for them to ensure that this remediation is ongoing and consistent, because it's certainly been, you know, something that is a concern. So that's what that's about.
Councillor Curry. Further speakers? No. All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. 13.3, affordable rental and transitional housing investment. Moved Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Curry. Any speakers?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a huge opportunity for council. It's something that I know many of us are really invested in, providing affordable rental housing in our local area, and council, through VPA over the years, has acquired a significant portfolio. We did establish, as part of the long-term financial planning, a property review over many years, and the intent of that was to always top up and accumulate funds over time for council to invest in affordable rental housing portfolio and or invest in income generating property, which could be commercial property where the income would be set aside to increase the portfolio. There's a little change in scope, which I think it's little but hugely important, to extend the definition of affordable rental housing for the procurement of transitional housing for victims of family and domestic violence. We have a hugely successful shelter, successful in terms of providing help to people who need it most, but there is a lack in Sydney of transitional housing where victims are transitioning out of shelters back into mainstream housing. This is an opportunity for Bayside Council to lead the way, buy some properties to actually transition primarily women and children out of a shelter, and it may not even be the Bayside shelter, it could be other shelters, but where council can support those people back into mainstream housing. So what I'm asking for here is that council now, we've got over $1 million in the fund already. We've got another $500,000 coming from the sale of land in Botany that was currently endorsed a couple of meetings ago, and we've actually got huge borrowing capacity where we can borrow long term at very cheap rates, which will then secure funds for us to purchase property for these purposes. So huge opportunity and somewhere where we can truly make a difference in a small way, but we can certainly lead the way in doing that. Thank you.
Councillor Morrissey. Further speakers? Councillor Brederhoft.
I just want to say congratulations. I wholeheartedly support this, and I think it's a great way to support victims of domestic violence and also for us as councillors to stand behind this. So thank you.
Councillors, further discussion? Councillor Barlow.
Just comment, I'm pleased to see rental in there. I did smile when I read it, and I thought someone was listening, because it's very definite that it's an affordable rental property. The only concern I do have, and I did say it before, was any of the properties that are in become strata. That was my concern because of what happened at Moat Avenue, apart from the strata of whatever, but when the builder was so bad that we ended up with $1 million, council ended up with $1 million debt to was the fire rating because the building went over 25 metres. So it's good to think we're going to do that as long as we're very careful where they're from, because there is so many badly built properties.
So if I can just provide further clarity on that point, when we set up this fund some time ago, there is always scope to sell those properties, provided the money is reinvested for the same purpose. So we've got a lot of strata properties at the moment, and I think my personal view is probably after 8 years, 7, 8, not 10 years, they're going to get a little bit run down. We should consider selling those properties on the market and then keeping that. There'll be a lot of capital growth that will be reinvested into new properties. So it's always going to be, the intention is always true, not to hold something for 50 years and we end up with slums. We don't want that. We want good to high quality properties that are affordable rental housing for the people needed, and now for the victims of domestic violence. So we've got to keep renewing.
Councillor Morrissey. Councillors, further discussion? No. All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Item 13.4, support for Transport for New South Wales maritime action on jet ski safety. Moved Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Strong. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor Douglas.
I just wanted to thank the staff for organising the trip out with the Mayor and other councillors onto Maritime New South Wales boats so that we could see firsthand from the water their point of view on how we can tackle increasing jet ski safety in Bayside. It was illuminating. It didn't give me all the answers that I was hoping for, and I still very much support the motion that we put up last council meeting for Steve Camper to set up the jet ski hooning task force. I've been continuing to get sent really horrific footage from residents of jet skis doing donuts right next to a kid on a bodyboard, a swimmer. You know, it's quite scary stuff, and it's not scary to us that some of those videos have now had over 270,000 views from people around New South Wales and the country who are also similarly very worried about this issue, as we have increasingly high-powered vehicles very close proximity to swimmers. So what this motion is it's taking on board some of the immediate safety recommendations that Shane Davey, the Director of Maritime New South Wales, was suggesting that we could, as a council, get behind them doing, which includes the request to have a water safety CCTV camera as part of their surveillance network at the foreshore at Brighton Le Sands to enable them to work with St George Police to remotely monitor illegal jet ski driving. That's the first point. And the second point, that council proactively supports Transport for New South Wales Maritime St George call for changes to the Surveillance Devices Act and the Privacy Personal Information Protection Act to enable them to issue fines and charges from incidents recorded on that CCTV camera network, writing to relevant ministers and the Attorney-General to show our support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Further discussion? No, thank you. I will just say there's a really practical solution here. If we can get these cameras working again, it seems like that was a great way to solve these problems, particularly where they come into restricted swimming areas with a very low resource investment, so we should definitely push for this. Sorry, Councillor Barlow.
Sorry, yeah, thank you for, I'm glad I went. I did learn a lot. It was interesting, but I know there's a lot of views on social media, but the yellow boys are there. One of them that's doing the irregular driving, which is donuts and all sorts of things like that. I mean, it's still called irregular driving, and I didn't know what it was at first. The way that some of the cameras, the photos are taken, they are misleading, and I'll say they are misleading. That jet ski was outside the yellow boys. He might have been very close to it, but he was in the area. He was not in the areas he was not allowed to be in.
Point of order, sorry. Actually, it was very clear from Shane Davey, the director, that the jet skis to do irregular driving need to be 200 metres from high tide mark. So that yellow buoy is deceptive, I agree. There are multiple buoys, and this was a motion that I brought to council last year or 18 months ago to try and get some.
What's the point of order?
Well, I think you're giving misinformation. Sorry, the point of order is misinformation.
It's a misinformation. I don't know if I can adjudicate on that one. Councillor Douglas.
Well, according...
Councillor
Look,
Barlow.
I will say that social media does it does affect everybody, because it doesn't matter what you say if they believe it. But I must admit that what we saw there was fantastic. We learnt so much. I learnt a lot, because it really showed. We were there. We saw someone being pulled over. You wouldn't have known that jet ski was anything but a normal. She just said, "Oh, he's got a light on it," or that was the only reason you knew it was anything but it was a maritime person. So, and the letter that they wrote, which I'm glad is published now, is proving the concerns. They have concerns, but we haven't had the accidents that we thought we had. So I'm pleased it's here, and I believe we've got to get that camera in. Hopefully that they can find the funding, or the state government can find the funding. But I'm very glad I went, and I did learn a lot.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Any further discussion? All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Item 13.5, pedestrian bridge at Cogra. Move Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Brederhoft. Any speakers?
I just wanted to make a couple of little amendments to this. In the background, it says that the complaints included is too narrow. The specificity of that is it's too narrow for different users to share safely at the same time. If we could add that in, please.
We're asking for different information in the background that I assume Councillor Douglas provided. All right, we noted that.
And that it was also in the background, the first paragraph, it's deemed by bike user groups as dangerous. It's meant to say bike user groups and walking advocates as dangerous and in need of improvement.
Sure. Councillors, further discussion? All those in favour?
No, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Barlow.
Don't be so quick. Yes, I actually have made representation to Steve Campus' office or to Samantha, because when I crossed the bridge the day I came to James Cook High, I thought, oh, this isn't nice. It was too low, and I wondered why it didn't have a cage over it. And I don't know how the M6 wasn't included in their design, but there is. Now I'm trying to think, and I didn't have time to go and look, but I'm sure there's a pedestrian crossing there just up further in South Street. So they don't have to go over the bridge, and I'm pretty sure there's one signalised pedestrian crossing further up, which I think a lot of the kids use anyway. So I'm not sure. Would it be a matter of whether they'd have the funding? I agree that the sides are too low and it should have a cage over it, mainly because I walked over it and I went, oh, I don't like this. So, but I believe there's a pedestrian crossing up towards South Street, which is, I think, what everyone uses.
Signalised intersection. Councillors, any further discussion? No. All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Item 13.6, Major General Williams Homes Memorial. Move Councillor Poulos. Seconded Councillor Barlow. Councillor Poulos.
Councillors, I intend to speak briefly about my notice of motion. The details and the aims are self-explanatory. It's appropriate that we properly recognise our military achievements and our key military figures. Major General William Holmes, CMG, DSO, VD, was historically one of them. Not only is this memorial located in a key area next to a major arterial road named in his honour, but that same memorial has seen better days. The area around the memorial was once shaded, but it is no longer, and it's in a state of neglect. My intention is to see that both the memorial is properly enhanced, that the signage is introduced, and importantly, and I want to emphasise this, that the grass area around the memorial is beautified with floral features, new turf, and with an Australian flag to draw attention to this memorial, especially for the visitors and the 70,000 vehicles that pass it each day without a level of awareness of who or why the road was named after Major General. I'd also like to acknowledge the valiant efforts of the city presentation team, who, following my request, have cleaned around the memorial. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further discussion? All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Item 13.7, Rockdale Cultural Festival and Laneway Activation. Moved Councillor Brederhoft, seconded Councillor Douglas. Councillor Brederhoft.
Yeah, thank you. This is simply for Council to consider a Rockdale Laneway and Cultural Festival in the next event calendar, which is the 2026 event calendar, I believe. And this is really a laneway activation and cultural festival to activate and revitalise Rockdale. Laneway activation has been proven to be an innovative way to breathe life into urban spaces, and cities such as Melbourne have transformed once neglected laneways into bustling hubs of food and culture, and closer as well to home, Kokra also had a laneway festival last year that drew hundreds of visitors. So boosting this would be a great opportunity for Rockdale.
Thank you, Councillor Brederhoft. Any other speakers? Councillor Naji.
Okay, I don't want to put a spanner in the woodwork and put an amendment, but can we include the Regal Association in there? I don't think it's in there. I'm
The
just
Regal's Musical Society.
yeah.
should
Can
also
we
be
include that in there? I don't want to put an amendment and go into a debate, but it's,
I'm
if we
sure
can
the
include
intention is
that
all
in
the,
the report, it'll be good.
should also be the Guild Theatre.
thank
There's
you.
a typo there. Yeah, the Guild Theatre must be a new,
Regal music.
do something else.
And can we change it, not Guild Theatre?
Yeah, I
We could
just
have
said
the
that,
Guild
yeah.
Theatre. And also the Regals, so you've got Rockdale Musical Society as well. We're very lucky in Rockdale. We have the opera, 2 musical societies and the theatre.
The theatre company and an
So-
opera company.
Oh, it's the opera, I said the opera company, 2 musical societies,
Yeah.
and the Guild Theatre, or Guild Theatre. And I was lucky enough to be here. I think, the General Manager was here when we had our first laneway. We had a few. It was funded by the state government. We kept saying we need more, but we tried to get an operator to run it. It didn't happen, but it was fantastic. And the staff did such a great job, and we'll hope, and it's great that it might come back, but it definitely needs funding by the state government because it was really good. But I can't remember how it was over a month or can't remember. But it was something that is worthwhile having, and whether we just have and our laneways need to be used. I was in Melbourne before, and it was great. But then you have to get the shops involved. Where in Melbourne they've all got frontages to the front as well. So. But anyway, it's great to have, and hopefully we can get the funding because that would be something that it would be worthwhile.
I think we already have the funding for the permit plug play program at Rockdale, which I think will be a real opportunity there.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I think it's a great idea. I think Rockdale is ready for it. I think the more that Bayside does events like this, bringing people together, the more people will come to Bayside, bringing energy and economy to the area. So bring it on. I look forward to seeing it in the planning phases, and I think, hit the whole spectrum of music, youth music, all sorts of music, and if you need a DJ, I'll drop a set.
Councillor Strong, see on a voluntary basis. I think just there are obviously a lot of options for events coming up, and those will need to be considered on a whole basis as this motion outlines and prioritised. Councillors, any further discussion? All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Item 13.8, scoping or feasibility report on heritage review and local character assessment. Moved Councillor Brederhoft, seconded Councillor Douglas. Councillor Brederhoft.
Thank you. So this is really simply a motion that just asks for what I want to see is the cost for doing such studies. So, and I think I advocate for this to really get an expert heritage review and a local character assessment for Bayside. This is in response to growing frustration and concerns from our residents who feel the unique character for our neighbourhood is being lost. Time and time again, we hear from residents in Bayside that it's losing its identity, Federation houses and distinct character homes are being threatened, and the individuality of our suburbs is being at risk of being diluted by development. In particular, residents are deeply concerned about new buildings that seem to be sort of a step out of the local character aesthetic. Because as custodians of this community, it is our responsibility to ensure that progress does not come at the expense of our history and local charm. And as council, we must be proactive, not reactive. So preserving our heritage and local character should not be an afterthought after development has been approved. So we must take a strategic, forward-thinking approach to protect what makes Bayside unique before it's too late. By acting now, we can ensure future growth and respect our rich history, and that we are not scrambling to protect important sites and character-defining elements later. It's important to emphasise, and I want to emphasise, is that preserving local character and accommodating new development can go hand in hand. Thoughtful planning and informed decisions can ensure that new developments complement rather than overpower our cherished urban character. Discrete streetscapes, buildings and open spaces of our suburbs are not just physical structures, they are living stories. Every street corner, building facade, and tree-lined avenue tells the story of our past, our cultural identity, and the generations who have called Bayside home, such as the Macedonians. By preserving them, we ensure future generations can connect with history that shape us. This report I'm asking Council to do will provide us with the tools that we need to do an informed decision as councillors. A heritage review will help identify and assess significant sites, structures and precedents that contribute to Bayside's rich history. While our Heritage Markers program is a great start and I really loved it, we need a strategic and more holistic approach to preserve and promote heritage. Notably, Bayside has conducted a comprehensive heritage assessment in 1999, which is more than 2 decades ago now. So it's time to revisit and understand what makes our community so unique. A local character assessment, on the other hand, will examine the key traits that define our suburbs, ensuring that future development aligns with the community's vision and preserves the special qualities that make Bayside unique. Other neighbouring councils, such as Randwick and Waverley, have successfully undertaken similar studies, and we can learn from their experience. Their examples show that well-executed character assessments is an invaluable tool in managing growth while respecting our local identity. This report is there to outline the cost and timeframe and approach to be required to undertake this work. It will identify what is needed for us to go forward and make an informed decision. And I acknowledge that the General Manager said this is not feasible within a month, so I'm very happy to have 2 or 3 months for this motion if this motion gets adopted. And so what we get out of this, we get clarity, we get the ability to strategically safeguard the things that make Bayside unique, and we show our residents, and I think that's most important, that we are listening to their concerns and that we value the character and history of our suburbs just as much as they do. Thank you.
Councillor. Further speakers? Councillor Curry.
Yeah, my thought is, could you just scroll up a bit? Councillor, would you consider maybe that we also liaise with the Botany Historical Trust and the St George Historical Group, because I think they have quite a good sense of some of the history and would be able to provide some feedback to support the work that I'm sure Mr Barber will lead.
Councillor Barlow.
Well, after seeing I've just returned from Launceston at 4:45 tonight, I understand how beautiful the city is. There's no high-rise buildings. It's just amazing. But yes, I agree with this, and I love my heritage, which is contrary to certain people that have said it over time. But I think 1 month you've got to change to, you should consult with the staff. You can't just put 1 month. They've got other work to do. But I also have the 1994 heritage study that was thrown out by council, the Castle Walker study. This is it here. So we have all these houses listed. They can't be pulled down. So we've already got that in place. Then I found 1997, which was, because the Heritage Review was absolutely thrown out. I mean, we had no support. The council's changing slowly. We are getting people more sympathetic to the built form. So we started with the late Ron Rathbone, that we started with 1800. So we went through the eras. So there is a lot of work has been done. This one here was, I think this is the stone cottages, but it's a matter of planning it, and I agree with it. And I feel that we have the Castle Walker study to work from. I don't think there's many there. There's a house in my street. You would not believe, it was a single-fronted cottage with 2 bedrooms. It's now a single-fronted cottage still with, it's built good architect. It's got 4 bedrooms, and because the land sloped the right way, they've got a house that's incredible. The former mayor, Bill Savranovsky, I said, come and look at this house. He decided he might change his mind on heritage because he could not believe what you could build, and that was a heritage listed house. So there's areas here that I think the work is there, but you really need to, it's unfair if you just say to the staff, oh, we want it in a month. They haven't got time. So I feel you should ask the general whether maybe 3 months, and if they haven't got time, you've got to allow them more time, because it's a lot of work, and I don't know if the director can do 3 months even. It's a matter of what, but we've got Cass and Walker study, so you've got something to start with. But at the other side, I think Botany has a heritage list as well. So there's a little bit of work there. Okay, the people in Bexley didn't want it. I think it was the wrong way. We did really do it the wrong way in the end, because the problem is we're losing what we had, and we're getting built these very cold, very boring houses. Well, someone likes them, but there's one near the Oval that you wouldn't pick. He was clever. He kept the whole facade, all the lead light windows, great house. You wouldn't know that it's modern, but it's a matter of trying to, believe me, it's very hard to convince people. Yes, so it's sympathetic to the area, but that doesn't matter. They don't care. They want it their way. So look, I'm happy to do it, but I think you should change the... Hang on, we've lost 3 and...
I think we're deleting point 3, aren't we?
What? Which was
Oh,
3?
yes, please. As I acknowledged in my speak, I know that time frame wasn't good. So thank
Okay.
you, Councillor.
Okay,
Barlow.
all right.
Already action,
All
Councillor
right,
Barlow.
thank you.
Councillors, further discussion? All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Item 13.9, the TikTok account of the Honourable Ron Honig MP. We'll move into seconder. Moved Councillor Dusku, seconded Councillor Boudelay. Have any speakers? Councillor Dusku.
Okay. Today's motion brings me no joy. Some of you will think this is simply an opportunity to political point score. It's not. This is actually a serious issue about the way some men see women in politics in all political parties. Many of you would have seen the recent media articles concerning the inappropriate music that the local member and Senior Minister of Local Government, Ron Honig, chose to use on his social media account. This music used degrading lyrics while showing the minister engaging with high school students and young women, including a local government awards winner. Over the years, there's been many instances where I've questioned the commitment that the major parties have to fostering respectful dialogue about women in politics. This is just another example of another senior male in politics being offensive and degrading to women. I'm here to call it out regardless of who does it. Some may say that the Minister's office chose the music or is just another social media video with little consequence. What I would say is that it all counts in the fight for equality in politics and in our society. Every act counts, and is a very slippery slope if we just disregard these actions. The thing that hits the hardest and is the most disappointing is that the Minister does not think what he posted was wrong. He instead has dug his heels in, refuses to take the content down, and refuses to apologise. He has said that this is the way to connect with young people. Well, Minister Honig, I think many in your electorate, including many women, would disagree. Imagine being that young woman receiving an award and you have to be accompanied by explicit language about your body. It's actually quite disgusting. And after that speech at the Tamworth conference, that was the only thing that anyone could actually speak about when leaving the conference. It actually did not sit well with me as a new female politician, or councillor rather. This is why I've chosen to take a really brave step and call this out, and would like council to express an official position, and ask Ron Honig to take these videos down. If the most senior minister in local government doesn't see a problem with this, what hope do we all have? Please take these videos down.
Thank you, Councillor. Further discussion? Councillor Curry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've always had, people that have been in this chamber for a long time like I have, I've always had a strong view against motions that are not in the remit of council. and I stand by that. Today I'm going to speak against this motion because it is nothing more than a political stunt, and it's inappropriate and it's embarrassing use of our time. For a first motion, it is frankly disappointing. There are so many pressing local issues in our community that need our attention, issues that are affecting the daily lives of people that we represent. Yet instead of focusing on practical policies that support women and others in our community, we are debating the background of a social media post. I remind councillors, this is not why we are here, regardless of our own personal views and our thoughts. Our motions need to be focused on real local issues. We need to improve community services. We need to support more women's safety, like the Her Way project, more lighting. We need to increase access to education, more women through the apprenticeship program. We need to do more around employment and housing, like the motion that was up tonight was supported. And we need to look at council's policies and programs. These are the things that the community is looking at from us. So it is, you know, I think our community does deserve more than political point scoring. And I urge everyone here to reject this motion, and let's commit to meaningful actions that actually change the people that we represent across Bayside.
Councillor Naji.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I want to assure my colleagues and the community, regardless whether you're Liberal, Labor or Independent or the Green, if anyone disrespects women, I'm the first person to jump up on that. I agree with Councillor Curry that we need to do this. We need to encourage local, females into male-dominated, but that's not the issue. The issue is, and it's not against the Honourable Honing. I have the greatest respect, but I lost a bit of that respect when I was in the Tamworth conference, and I experienced that myself. And I was in a room where he was giving a speech, and guess what? I wasn't the only one in that room. So most of the councillors around here were in that room, and he focused in his speech about the way a young lady is dressed, you know, the black tapless dress, plus the nice high heels and so on, and talked about giving $500 donation so she can keep the dress. Now, let me tell you, at the end of the speech, Mr Mayor, out of 500-600 people, I wouldn't be, not even maybe a handful of people that clapped him, and everyone was in shock and disgust. And I thought, this is not right. Something will come out of this. And months later, you have the media talking about lyrics on TikToks. And I am too ashamed to mention them. And if you want, I can play those TikToks and see how disrespectful to women. Now, please, all we're saying in this notice of motion that Councillor Dusko brought up is to show some respect to women. Doesn't matter who it is, whether it's the Honourable Honing or another minister and so on. And to say that this is not a local government, not a council issue, this is laughable. Because if you look at the senior Minister Honing, he's in charge of local government. He is the Minister for Local Government. And guess what? All the councils are an arm of this local government. And believe me, if it was a Liberal, a Green, or another Independent, I would get up and say the same. We got to respect women. You can't talk. So all we're saying is sending a signal. Please refrain from these lyrics, refrain from these disrespectful things about women. That's all. We're not having a go at Honourable Honey and asking he must resign or he must, we must take action. All we're saying is refrain from this behaviour, which is not acceptable, not only by females. My wife, when she heard on 2GB and on other news networks, she was offended. And I told her, this minister belongs to this LGA. She was disgusted. So not only females were offended, males were offended, and that's all. I think we should support this just to express our disapproval and disappointment. That's all. Thank you.
Councillor Naji, further speakers? Councillor Boudeleau.
I just wanted to say, given I sit in Ward 2, like, Minister Honig is not a bad guy. He does a lot for the community. I think where this really falls over, and I do commend Councillor Dusko for putting this forward. It's obviously a tough one, and it's a brave one to put forward. And what I would say is, he just doesn't see what's wrong with this. That's the problem. Like, you can say, sure, I put this video up and there's some weird lyrics, and you can jump on the Telegraph and you can see the lyrics. They're terrible. They're talking about young women's bodies, and he's putting that with videos next to high school students. It's just weird, right? So I think just take the videos down. Just don't do it again. Seriously, it's not hard. Like, I know you've got a full ministerial office of senior advisors, and I'm sure Ron didn't put the music up himself, but you signed off on it. Just take the videos down and just don't do it again. That's all we're saying. So please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boudeleau. Any further speakers? Councillor Brederhoft.
Yeah, I just want to say that I cannot sit still, not say anything to this motion because I work in this space. I can support what is said in this motion, but for me, I cannot support this motion because I don't have any evidence. To be honest, I'm not on TikTok. I wasn't at the conference. I have actually, and this is the honest truth, I have not seen it. I don't know which music it is. And there is no evidence that provides it. So the council reaffirms a commitment to gender equality. I think council is committed to gender equality, and I've seen that, and I don't know whether we can push the point 4 forward or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brederhoft. Any further discussion?
Right, a reply.
Look, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Dusko.
So it's all over the media. You can really look it up, and there's quite a bit of content there to prove that. That's all I wanted to say. And I'll call a division.
Thanks, Councillor Dusko. And look, I might just make a comment on this. I mean, I do think this is not like this, bringing this matter to a local government meeting, I think is just, it's not relevant to the work we do. And we do, as Councillor Curry said, do important work here that is of substance to our community. And I mean, you can hold an opinion that this is not political, but look, there are many people around the room here who were here in 2018 when one of our other local members, Scott Morrison, did something very similar, and I don't remember a motion being moved about that by anyone in the room. I'm sure people would be happy to look up the lyrics in the song that he used backing a social media video, but I'll leave you to do that for yourselves. So, councillors, the division has been called. All those in favour? No. All those against? No. Declare it lost. Division has been called. Councillor Curry? Councillor Morrissey? Councillor Boudeleau? Councillor Strong? Councillor Kassim? Councillor Brederhoft? Councillor Savranovsky? Councillor Naji? Councillor Dusko? Councillor Awada, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Poulos, Councillor Douglas, and myself against. Declare the motion lost. You councillors. Councillors, item 13.10, Walleye Creek traffic study. Moved Councillor Boudeleau, second Councillor Kassim. Councillor Boudeleau.
Sorry, a less controversial topic. Walleye Creek traffic. We all know it's quite horrendous going in and out of Walleye Creek. This motion, I know there's a lot of good work being done by council. This is to provide an update through the committee, through council, on what actions we can take as a council to improve the situation there. I think on top of, issues like the Ubers, the pedestrian crossing, traffic's another issue for Fulli Creek, flooding. So I hope you would support this just to kind of move, and hopefully we can move some actions to improve the situation there. I know a lot of you have driven through there. It's pretty chaotic. So I'd look for your support for this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Kasim.
Yeah, just to note that this is entirely consistent with my notice of motion on the same point. In particular, that that work was done on this in the previous council by Councillor Anne Fardell, and to include considerations which were made at the time in any report back. Thank you.
Councillor Kasim, further discussion?
Yeah, just
Councillor Naji.
briefly, being a councillor, former councillor in Ward 2, I should say, former Ward 2, and I commend Councillor Boutile for bringing this up. It is a major concern and we need to address a lot of the issues, and I commend him for putting this up. I'd be surprised if it doesn't get through. Thank you.
Councillor Naji. Councillor Douglas.
I just wanted to note that this was also specifically mentioned in the question on notice 14.2, which is in the business papers as well.
Councillor Douglas. Further discussion? All those in favour? All those against? Declare it carried. Item 13.11, Green Space Mascot Station Precinct. Moved Councillor Boutile. Seconded Councillor Kasim. Councillor Boutile.
Just very, very quickly, this is about council providing a report on potential green space opportunities in Mascot. For people that live in Mascot Central, it can be sometimes feel like a bit of like a concrete jungle. We cherish every blade of grass. We appreciate every tree. We are tree huggers in Mascot. There just aren't many trees around. So this is an opportunity to, don't want to put more burden on Peter, whoever's doing this work, but to reserve land, look at what areas we could buy to open that up to green space. I know a lot of you will think the Liberals don't support the environment, but we do. And one of the leading environmentalists is Matt Keane, a former Liberal as well. So in that tradition, I'd put this forward. Current, I don't know if he's renewed his membership. He does work for the Labor government. But anyway, hopefully you guys will support this. I don't think there's a specific time frame on the item. I'm not sure that's necessary. I'm sure we can, come together on a time for when the paper should come back. But I think this is a worthwhile thing to explore. Thank you.
Councillors, further discussion? Councillor Curry.
I think we're looking at that piece of work along the Botany Road spine from Gardeners Road through towards Botany Shops, and I know there was previous conversations in the previous term of council around getting a really good design along there, and if depending on how it unfolds, that it's really important that within that development too, potential future development, that there is that green space planning that then impacts. So I wonder if it's if it's worth, councillor, at this point maybe putting in there something that that it also is as part of future developments within the Mascot area, and embedding that significant open space. A good example is a development in Arncliffe, where the library is, and the substantial green space that connects those areas. So as we look to those new areas, that would be really important that we get that right.
Thank you. Councillor Naji.
I'll be as quick as possible. I can only compare the Mascot precinct to Wolli Creek precinct. I think originally, when they did the master plan, they forgot about enhancing the green space or including. Now, we've discovered that Wolli, it definitely needed the open space, and we created through whatever needs to create a nice park on both sides, the highway and the other side. And I believe we solved it somehow, but not as good enough as should have been included in the plans. And here we go. If you go to Mascot Precinct, it is exactly the same problem. They've just built these high-rise everywhere, but there's no green space enhancement over there. And again, I commend Councillor Boutelle and thank you, Councillor Kassim, and that shows bipartisan, Labor and Liberal pushing for the same thing. And I'm glad that Councillor Boutelle have brought it up, and we just got to serve the community. Thank you.
Councillor Naji, any further speakers? Councillor Barlow.
Just a comment. Ward 4 has been very, very lucky because we had a councillor there for 40 years, the late Ron Rathbone, who foresaw that future and did, over the years, designate areas for open space. So, and that seems to have slipped through the developer's hands. So that you've got to, when it's a, is it the one in, there's one that they changed the open space, Barter 2 or something. So they've changed the open space, and that's, you've got to look at the developer has to provide land in that open space as well, because you can't afford to buy the land. So, but I think it's Barter 2. I was asking the ward to, is it Barter 2 where they changed all the open space and shrank it? So, yeah, so you've got to try, we've got to be strong. We've got to, whatever the planners do, they've got to put it in the plan where the developer can't change it and make it less.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Discu.
So, as many of you might know, I've been out on the hustings, and one of the main concerns that residents have is the lack of green space in Walleye Creek and the traffic issues in Walleye Creek. So it's merging both motions, but that really needs to be addressed by all levels of government, and hopefully council can lead the way.
Thank you, Councillor Discu. Any further discussion? No, look, I think just further to Councillor Curry's comment, Council's been looking at the botany spine for the green space, but also the General Manager's informed me since the formation of this new council, new green space acquisition in high density precincts was obviously highlighted in our first meeting as a priority. So that work is well underway and should be able to report back soon in areas like Mascot. That being said, councillors, all those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. Councillors, questions with notice? Councillors, anything not already received? No, thank you. Move to item CWA 25.007, rescission of award of bus shelter advertising contract and retender. We'll be discussing confidential session. Do you have a mover and a seconder for the report? Moved Councillor Poulos, seconded Councillor Dusko. In accordance with Section 10A(4) of the Local Government Act and Council's Code of Meeting Practice, I invite members of the public to make representations as to whether or not this part of the meeting should be closed to the public to consider the confidential items. No representations. There being no representations, I move that Council closes the meeting to the public for the reasons outlined in the report. Is there a seconder? Seconded Councillor Morrissey. All those in favour, all those against, declare that carried. I ask the press and public to leave the chamber before we consider the confidential items. Yep. Councillors, I call on the General Manager to announce the resolutions carried in the closed session. Carried according to...
Thank you, councillors. CWA 25007, motion moved by councillors Poulos and Naji. There was a considerable discussion and the resolution remains that Council's February 2024 resolution to award the bus shelter advertising contract to Claude Outdoor Proprietary Limited be rescinded and that a new tender process be commenced for a bus shelter advertising contract that includes scope for additional locations. I think we could add a point 3 that councillors be briefed on the history and the process going forward.
Thank you. Councillors, just prior to the closing of the meeting, sorry, councillors, we have one quick presentation that I'm sure will not take more than a minute or two. Councillor Saravinovsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be very brief. I know everyone wants to go home. Just for the residents watching live on YouTube and my fellow councillors, in light of the Macedonian tragedy, I bring some good news to this chamber. A month ago, we had a special guest visit our Bayside community. I was fortunate enough to be invited and had the distinct honour of meeting and receiving a gift from Macedonia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Timcho Munchunski. This is not only a personal honour, but this was shared on behalf of Bayside Council and, of course, our community. Minister Timcho Munchunski's visit holds significant importance. As you may not know, he's the first Macedonian minister to visit Australia in over 15 years, and only 3 councillors gathered here will remain. I am thrilled to share that Minister Munchunski has pledged to return next year to continue building upon the strong ties between our council and the Macedonian community. The gift that the Minister has presented to me, and I had the honour of accepting and presenting to council, is a bridal belt from the 19th century presented to us as not just as a gesture of goodwill, but an invitation to deepen our understanding and partnership. It symbolises the strong foundation that we can continue to build on as we enhance our cultural ties and explore avenues for collaboration and celebrate the diverse histories and traditions that make us so unique. I'd like to thank Minister Munchunski for his visit, generosity and commitment to returning next year. I'm proud to have spoken to him directly and be part of this exciting chapter in our community story, especially of Macedonian heritage, and can't wait for him next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Saravinovsky. Councillor Disco, just very quickly.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to also be at that event. I was super impressed by the Minister. He spoke extremely well. And also like to thank Chris and his family for inviting me to that event. It was the community's a very, very welcoming and warm community.